And welcome back to B&E Productions. I'm Ethan, and here we are with another Airsoft review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the EMG Salient Arms International 2011 DS. Quite a long name, but nonetheless a pretty cool gun. So just a little bit of background here. I got this as a part of an Evike Box of Awesomeness. Got the silver and the green gas version. However, I'm not a big user of green grass, so I did order some CO2 magazines. So this review is going to be over the CO2. These guns are dual powered, so you are able to use both. We'll be kind of talking about those as we go along, but let's get into it here. So up at the front here, typically there is an orange tip. I removed it. When I got this gun, I was pretty excited. I knew I wasn't going to be playing with it actually in games too much. Really, this is just a cool prop gun for my use. I certainly could use this in a game if I wanted to, but just so you're aware, I did take the orange tip off. You can see what it looked like in my orange tip removal video beforehand. So we got that going on. The barrel sticks out just a little bit, and it's a gold barrel, you know, the Salient Arms International, their whole thing with like having gold accents in their guns. So barrel is gold. It's pretty cool, looks good there. We get into the slide. At this point, we do have front slide serration, so that way if you need to do any kind of manipulation or, you know, whatever you need to do, it is there on both sides of the gun. We also have rear slide serration, so again, if you need to do any kind of malfunction clearing or just to, you know, rack the gun or whatever have you, you can do so. This gun has lots of SAI trades on it. There's tons, so we'll start here. We got Salient written right here. We have the Salient logo right here. We have the Salient logo on the barrel. We got Salient Arms International on this side. We have the SAI logo on the grips on both sides. You have the logo here on the rear sight. You have it on the magazine up at the front here. They want you to know that this is an SAI gun because, you know, typically these guns are very expensive in real life, and this one is no exception to the Airsoft version. You have Salient Arms International here underneath the safety selector. So yeah, this gun has logos and stuff everywhere on it. I just think it's kind of funny because that's a lot on this one particular gun. I think they could have just went with one and been fine. Whatever though, I mean, it's Airsoft, looks matter, so there you go. I did touch on the sights. The sights are pretty clean. You get a green, like fiber optic kind of sight in the front, and then a blacked out rear sight. Honestly, pretty good. Not too bad there. I really do like the sights. I think they're very clean. So, kind of get down into the frame here. Frame is nice. If you don't know the difference between a 2011 and the 1911, the 2011 is pretty much the newer version of the 1911. It's a double stack version. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit girthier. So for me, like, I've got, you know, kind of average hands, maybe a little bit on the smaller side here. So for this, like, it feels a little big, a little bulky in my hands compared to like the 1911. So if you have bigger hands, this could be a gun for you. For guys with smaller hands, it's not unusable, but there are a couple things that you'll just have to kind of work around. Yeah, the frame's pretty good. Like I said, you get your two textured grips here with the logo on them. Yeah, they're comfortable. They look cool. They're not like so aggressive that it's going to cut up your hand, but it's not going to like slip out of your hand either. And with that being said, you do have some texture on both the front and the rear of the grip too, which is nice. So that way you're not going to slip around or anything like that. It's very nice, solid grip. So good job there. with that, at the front of the frame, we do have an accessory rail, so if you wanted to put a light or a laser or whatever have you, totally can. Let's talk about the controls for a second. You do have an ambidextrous safety selector. Pretty positive, pretty loud, so that way you're able to tell when you move into safe or fire. You do have a beaver tail safety that needs to be depressed to shoot the gun. So just a little feature there. Left hand side of the gun, we have our slide stop or slide catch, whatever you want to call it. You have that on the left hand side. So for me, just like my 1911s, are really a lot of the pistols that I find myself using. I'll go ahead, put that magazine in, and then when I bring my support hand up, I'll go ahead and actuate it with my left thumb, and then get right back into the shooting position. For those with like bigger hands, you might be able to do that with your right thumb. But yeah, for me, that's not happening. So again, this is something that you will have to practice with. And then like for me, like I have to break my grip to go ahead and hit that magazine release. Magazine release is on the left hand side. So just so you know. So yeah, it's ambidextrous, but isn't really. So we got that going on. Have our hammer and our trigger. Triggers, not too bad. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate for you. So have a lot of mush, a lot of take up there, and then we hit our wall, and then, you know, it's not too bad there. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get that reset. Not too bad. This is one of those guns to me that I like had a little bit of trouble getting used to. Is like trying to figure out where that reset was. You can hear it, but since it's pretty mushy, it took me a little bit of firing to go ahead and try to get into that rhythm to be able to shoot fast with this. So one thing I do want to touch on is I did talk about the gold at the barrel here. There's been lots of comments and stuff on like other reviews and stuff saying that the gold paint does flake off, and I have noticed that here with mine. I've shot maybe 6 magazines through it initially, and like yeah, it's starting to wear already pretty noticeably. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's talk about magazines here. So again, this came with a green gas magazine. I'm not a green gas user. I didn't want to use propane. I don't have any green gas here. It's just, I don't like using green gas, so I didn't use it. Big fan of CO2, so I bought some CO2 magazines. Essentially, the only difference between these is the power source. So down at the bottom here in the green gas magazine, you have the fill valve down at the bottom. I will say you will need a longer fill nozzle to go ahead and actually insert it in here to put the gas in. So just something to keep in mind there. For the CO2 magazines, or for both magazines, you have about a capacity of about 30 rounds. So you actually do have quite a bit of ammo in this gun. Pretty nice there. These things are heavy. Like even compared to the gun, I feel like the magazine is heavier than the gun actually is. So this is a pretty hefty gun, just so you know. So with that being said, once I was able to get these magazines to work, they ran pretty good. So the way this works is you have this spring down at the bottom. You'll go ahead and you'll pull this down, and that will release the end cap. The way they designed this is there is a notch in the end cap that will go ahead and screw and unscrew the CO2 cap. So the way this works is you'll go ahead and you'll just, you know, screw it or unscrew it, depending on what you need it to do. I think this is one of the worst designed magazines for CO2. At least that I've used. There could be worse, but man, I hate the way this is designed. So They eliminated the need for an Allen key or an Allen wrench. I think they tried to innovate in a way that didn't need to be innovated, and honestly, it just made this process a real pain. Um, so once you get your CO2 down in there, you'll go ahead and you'll start screwing that back in. And then this is so little, it's kind of a pain to deal with. And then, like I said, you'll just go ahead and start screwing it in. And one thing I don't like about this magazine is the way it's designed is you can't see if there's a CO2 cartridge in here at all. So I guess you could try to guess by the weight, but like I said, these magazines are heavy already, so it's kind of hard to tell. I really don't like that. And I know you could like try to press the gas or whatever, like press the release nozzle on the back. I guess you could do that, but I wish you could just look in. Maybe if they had a window or something, you could see it. Or like even the Elite Force Berettas, like they have the Allen key, but they left a little space in there and you can see if there's a CO2 cartridge in there. I think that's a great idea. I don't like those magazines particularly either because they have this exact same way of like having this weird screw. I don't really like that either, but at least you can tell that there's one in there. I made this review twice. That's kind of partly why it took so long to get this review out, because I had a really bad experience with this gun, and I was like, man, I don't even want to touch it no more, but I wanted to try to get a more fair, more complete review. So for putting CO2 in here, being able to hear it is, I love being able to hear it when it punctures, like, and so my other magazines, you can hear that when the seal punctures, and then you can, tighten it up quickly so you're not wasting a bunch of CO2. I enjoy that. In this gun, or these magazines, can hardly hear it at all. So for sometimes, like when I was trying to get ready to record some footage for this review, is I put a CO2 cartridge in there, put it in the gun just to make sure it functioned. Nothing happened, so I was like, okay, weird. Let me go ahead and try to remove the CO2 to see if it punctured or not. And I started unscrewing it, and the CO2 shot out of my gun and put a huge hole in my wall. So that's great. Thankfully, I didn't have it pointed at my face or like at my laptop or something. But it did put a pretty considerable hole in my drywall, which kind of sucks. So just something to be aware of. Is that user error? Probably. Yeah. I probably should have done a couple other things before, try to see if it punctured, or try to tighten it before I tried taking it out. Things happen, but I just think it's a poor design. But once you get CO2 in there, fits, feeds, functions pretty well. I will say there is a bit of a break-in period with this gun. When I was first shooting it, every once in a while, I would just get the slide, just lock back to the rear for no reason. I had a full magazine, and I would shoot. It would lock back to the rear. That could just be the power of the CO2, just forcing it back. The more I shot it, the less it happened. So probably just need to break this in a little bit more. Performance-wise, runs pretty smooth. Like I said, I did have a couple issues with it just locking back to the rear for no reason. Probably just break-in period, getting, the gun cycling and all that. It shoots okay. It's not my favorite gun to shoot, but when it works, it's pretty fun. Again, this is probably going to be more of a prop gun for me. And then again with the power and the range, like the range is all right. The accuracy at that range is all right. I think it's not a top performer, but it's not like bad. It's not unusable. So with that, we'll jump into the chrono. So coming back from the chrono, again, I was using CO2 mags, 0.28 gram BBs. The numbers were pretty good. They're just above that 350 mark, so CO2 might be a little unusable indoors at some fields. But for green gas, you are probably more than likely able to go anywhere with those. So if you want to use this gun indoors, probably green gas is going to be your best bet. But yeah, CO2 works all right. I haven't really used any holsters with this gun. It's 2011. I don't have a real one, so getting a dedicated holster is kind of dumb. I only have 2 mags. And with the way this performs and the troubles I had with it and everything, I was like, nah, I don't want to invest more money into this gun. It was a cool gun to get in a box of awesomeness. The trouble I've had with it is kind of just like, meh. For the price of these guns, these are very expensive for what they are. So base models are about $180 to $190. They have, and these are mainly like plastic guns. For the like steel full versions, like the deluxe stuff, that can be $850, which is ridiculous. You can buy like real guns for that amount of money, and for a gun that performs okay, like that's ridiculous. For these, like I said, $180, I could buy a Elite Force 1911 plus 1 or 2 extra mags. That will perform and just work, and it's accurate, and it's a great gun. I would much rather do that than spend $180 and then another $35 for extra mags. So, and I know Elite Force mags, like they can be pretty expensive too, but I don't know, just not as great, I would say. I definitely think it looks cool. I will say that I think this gun looks cool, but for me and using it for the price point, I don't really think it's worth it. But I mean, it was something cool to get into a Evike Box of Awesomeness. If it wasn't in there, I don't think I would buy this gun. That's just the simple matter of the fact. It's cool, but practicality, using it, performance, I don't think it's there. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and leave those down in the comments. I'll try my best to get it answered. We're in the midst of finals week, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day.